So let's say that you got $5,000 to blow on a new used car. Well, look no further, because in this list, I'm going over 10 of the best used cars for under or around $5,000. Coming up in the number 10 spot, which is the worst of the best, is the Mustang GT SN95. Despite being somewhat ugly, you still get a V8 with rear-wheel drive and an optional 5-speed manual, or I believe a 5-speed automatic, although I could be completely wrong, it might be a 4-speed. But either way, you get an American icon with decent power, but the main thing is V8, manual transmission, and rear-wheel drive, which makes for an amazing, fun combo. And with that in mind, these can also be very good drift cars because they don't weigh a whole lot and it wouldn't take too much modification to make them be good for drifting. Not only that, but they're great for engine swaps, so if you're looking for something to drop an LS into, these are a great option as they have a very versatile platform. And with the right modifications, they can look pretty good, although stock they're somewhat ugly and they don't look like a traditional Mustang. But that's alright, because these are vehicles under $5,000, so you can't get the absolute nicest or best thing for this price. But next up, coming up in the number 9 spot, we have the 3rd generation Mitsubishi Eclipse. These cars, in my opinion, are really underrated. Like the whole Eclipse line as a whole, I mean, excluding the Eclipse Cross, because that thing's just ugly. Like, but it's sacrilege. The fact that they put that name on like a crossover, and I'm not even one of those people that hate crossovers. I think that they're actually really cool, especially like these new performance crossovers that are coming out, like the Lamborghini Urus, or even like the Hyundai Kona N and all that stupid stuff. I just went on a complete tangent, but no, like it's not even like it's a bad vehicle. It's just wrong to put the Eclipse name on it. But like the Eclipse, as in the sports cars, they're so underrated, like for what they are. Yeah, most of them are front-wheel drive, but they're really cheap, decently reliable, have okay tuning potential, but in my opinion, they all look really good. And the best thing is, they're great on gas, and they're really cheap, so I highly recommend it. Especially a 3rd generation, because right now, they're the cheapest, and you can get them with either an inline-4 or a V6, depending on what you want to go for. Either way, they're really good vehicles, especially as like a first car. I highly recommend them. And coming in at the number 8 spot, we have the Hyundai Genesis Coupe. Hyundai gets like a lot of flack for some reason. Like, I mean, I get it. They do, like, they used to, of course. They don't really anymore, but they used to suck as a car brand. Like, just pure unreliable vehicles. And they're not even, or they are now, but they weren't even like cool at all. They were just Hyundai. Like, there was never anything cool. It's like, all right, Kia nowadays, no one likes Kia. They don't do anything cool. Kia's just Hyundai, but stupid. But, like, nowadays, Hyundai is, like, really cool. They got the whole, like, N line. They got, you know, the Elantra N, which fights the Civic Type R, which is really cool. They got the Kona N, which is a cheap, relatively speaking, performance crossover, like, it's not even a crossover. It's, like, just a big hatchback. Like, I've seen them before. They're not even big. But anyway, see, I always go on tangents. But anyway, like, they're really good vehicles now. But back in, like, the 2000s, Hyundai just wasn't cool at all. And the only cool vehicle they really had was the Genesis Coupe, which was a rear-wheel drive, fun sports car with either a 2-liter turbocharged inline-4 or 3.8-liter naturally aspirated V6. And you could get it with a 6-speed manual or a 6-speed auto, which was actually really cool for the time. Not many brands at all had vehicles like this. In fact, I think it was actually, like, up until the FRS and BRZ came out, I think this was, like, the only real, like, performance coupe, like, those rear-wheel drive, and you get a manual transmission and all that cool stuff. I think this was, like, up at that point, the only vehicle like that, which, you know, was really weird that Hyundai, of all brands, was doing it. But they sold, like, quite a few of these, so you can get them really cheap, like, right around, sometimes below, but usually right around maybe a little more than 5,000, but not too much, like, you know, a few hundred. And that's before you even talk people down, which is a really big thing, is if you talk people down, you can get cars so cheap. Anyway, that's enough about this, and on to the next model. And coming up at the number, I don't even know what number it is, honestly, but in the next spot is the Acura TSX, which is literally just a rebadged Honda Accord Euro R, which I don't even know what the euro means. It's whatever. Anyway, it's fast car. Well, fast like for a Honda, which sets the bar pretty low because Hondas aren't fast. But anyway, no, the TSX is like a really good vehicle, especially for the price point, because you can get these for like $3,000, and you get a K24A2, which is a really good engine for tuning. They make like 201, I think, or like 197, something like that horsepower. And if you put a K20A2 head on it, it improves the flow, you get more power, more tuning potential. These engines are really good for like turboing as well, which, I mean, that's a big thing, right? Like, everyone wants a car with a turbo because they're loud and they sound cool. I know I do. Like, turbos, they're cool, you go fast. What is there not to love? And the TSX is practical. It looks, in my opinion, actually looks really good for what it is. And they sold quite a few of them, so it's not even like it's hard to find them for cheap. And you totally can. The front wheel drive, which kind of sucks, you can get them with either a 6-speed manual or like a 5 or 6-speed auto. I forget, honestly. I don't even remember. But yeah, no, it's a really good vehicle for the price, and I highly recommend it. And coming up at the number 6 spot, because I finally remember what spot I'm at, we have the Infiniti G35 Coupe or Sedan. It's a cool vehicle. It's basically like a 350Z, but more luxurious and really ugly. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I know a lot of people like them. I just think they're ugly. I see them everywhere. Like, it's daily, it's basic traffic, man. It's like 8th gen Civics. Yeah, they're fast and they can look cool. I mean, you can even make a G35 look cool. They're just ugly as is, and you can't even change it. Like, they're just bad vehicles. They're quick and they're great for tuning, but that's about where the positive ends. They're just bad vehicles. I mean, yeah. Anyway, you can get them with a 6-speed manual, rear-wheel drive, and all-wheel drive if that's like what you're into. I get them with God, I can't speak. With rear-wheel drive. And I mean, they're good for like drifting because they're built on the same platform as the 350Z, which is also a really good drift car, but you can find them, like, they're a bit more than 5K now because everybody talks about them and they've just appreciated, because like that's what sports cars do. And anyway, you can find like a 350Z for around 6 or 7K, but honestly, just get a G35 because like they're not even bad. They're ugly. They're not even like that. They're not unreliable, but they're not like Hondas, you know? Like, it's basically, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just a weird, like, sport luxury car thing. You get it as a coupe or a sedan. They're pretty fast. They sound like trumpets, and they're just ugly. Like, don't even buy these, man. Honestly. Buy one and send it to the junkyard. Alright, coming up at the number 5, like, I'm pretty sure number 5, I could be completely wrong, though, like, honestly. But, the 8th gen Civic Si, it's like the G35, it's ugly and, like, not a bad vehicle, but, like, I personally wouldn't recommend getting one, like, if you're just going based off looks, but they're really, really good for tuning. They can look, like, okay if you mod them right. I personally would recommend getting the sedan because the coupe is like, it's just weirdly proportionate. It looks like a UFO, which is something I don't think I've ever said about a vehicle, which that's really weird. But no, I would highly recommend an 8th gen SI, just to like the sedan because it's more practical, more fun. Well, not even more fun. It's more fun because you can have more people in it though. Like, that's pretty cool. But no, like, it's not even a bad vehicle. Like, I know I dogged on the G35 and I brought up the 8th gen Civic, but it's not even a bad car. It's great for tuning. It's got a 6-speed manual. They're also extremely reliable, which is a very big thing. Like, you can easily get 350, 400, maybe even 500,000 miles out of it, and it'll still run like the day it was bought. Absolutely amazing vehicles. And not only that, but they're great for tuning. So if you throw a turbo on it, you can be looking at some massive power. And coming up in the number 4, like, hopefully, I'm pretty sure it's number 4 spot, is the, like, 2006 to 2010 Dodge Charger RT. They're really unreliable, honestly. Like, you don't see many of them around. It's like the Chrysler 300C of the same era. It's just a luxury Charger. It's also really cool. They look amazing. I personally want one. I'm, like, kind of looking at them. But they don't exist anymore because they're really not reliable. They come with a 5.7 liter V8, which is a really good engine, honestly. Like, Dodge does make good V8s, but that's about where the good ends. In my opinion, these cars do look really good. They look very aggressive, which Most Dodges do. That's why I love Dodge, because they just make good vehicles. Like, I have a Dodge Dart right now, and it is honestly beautiful. Well, beautiful subjectively speaking, of course, it's in my opinion, but, you know, I think Dodge makes very aggressive, cool vehicles, which is a massive selling point, and that's why I think you should get a Charger, because they're great, they're aggressive, they make good power, 375 horsepower through either the rear wheels or all the wheels through a 5-speed, manually shiftable, automatic, and they're honestly great vehicles. And coming up in the number 3 spot, we have the MazdaSpeed3. These vehicles are very reliable, as time has said, of course, because there's still so many on the road. They look, in my opinion, they actually look really good. I'm not a big hatchback guy, but I do think that they're, like, decent for what they are. I don't even mind hatchbacks anymore. I've actually kind of been getting into them recently. I think that they are kind of cool vehicles because they blend practicality and fun, which is a big thing with the MazdaSpeed3. And that's one of their biggest selling points. You can get it with the 6-speed manual and, of course, front-wheel drive. It's a Mazda. It's a hatchback, right? So that's not really surprising. But they have a turbocharged inline-4, and that adds so much to the fun factor of this vehicle. And they're really cheap for what they are. You can get them for like $3,500 or $4,000, right around there in like okay condition, or if you want something that's decent, like good, you're probably looking at around $6,000. So $5,000 will get you about a middle ground looking MazdaSpeed3, which again, not even a bad vehicle because they're quite reliable and they're great for daily driving. They're very practical and they have tons of tuning potential. And coming up in the number 2 spot, we have the 98 to 2001, I believe, or 2002, I forget exactly, the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. Despite not being the most beautiful things ever, I do think that the pop-up headlights make them good looking. It's basically a budget C5 Corvette. They come with an LS1 rear-wheel drive and a 6-speed manual, so there's not much more that you could ask of this vehicle. They're just absolutely amazing. They have amazing tuning potential. LS1s have been known to get thousands, up into the thousands, which is a crazy number of horsepower, without needing severe modifications to the inside of the engine. So like without swapping out your pistons and, you know, your camshafts and stuff. Obviously I would recommend getting forged internals if you're going to be pushing like stupid amounts, like over, you know, 500 or 600. Definitely upgrade the internals if you want the engine to last, but if you're just looking for something to beat on, do whatever you want to it. Of course, it's your vehicle, right? Do whatever you want. But anyway, like, they're just really good vehicles for what they are. They're not even bad looking. They look like C5s, but they're not as nice, in my opinion. But they're also not bad. And the only, like, real downside is that the interior quality sucks. It's, you know, late 90s, early 2000s General Motors. And GM has a very poor reputation for interiors. Even nowadays, they're, like, still not that good. But either way, I highly recommend picking one of these up. Now, before I get into the number 1 vehicle, be sure to go down below in the comments and tell me what vehicle on this list was your favorite, or tell me another vehicle that I might have missed on this list for best vehicles under $5,000. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content just like this. And with that out of the way, the number 1 vehicle isn't just one vehicle. It's many, thousands even. Any vehicle that you can get in like good condition for under $5,000 is a good vehicle. Honestly, $5,000 nowadays in the car market doesn't get you a whole lot. Maybe like a Hyundai Santa Fe, beat up Civic, beat up Corolla, or, you know, some other vehicles like the ones on this list, but honestly, they're not going to be in the best condition, and that's something that you have to expect with, you know, such a low price point. And that's not dogging on, like, you know, $5,000. That's still a decent amount of money. But at the end of the day, you're not getting something new. So, in my opinion, the best vehicle that you can get for $5,000 is something with low miles that hasn't been destroyed or beat on. That's truly the best vehicle for your budget. And I'd save the rest and go for something around $10,000, or even go and finance something new. You know, that's what I'd personally recommend, because at the end of the day, these are old vehicles, and old vehicles do have a tendency, even Hondas and Toyotas, do have a tendency to be unreliable, and that's just how things are.